Welcome to the SCORE Business Showcase. Have another fantastic show for you this day, and it's something that's actually close to my heart, and it deals with photography. We have a special guest, and that's Fred Max. Welcome, Fred.
Hi, Steve.
All right. So, how did you get interested in photography?
Oh, I think I've been interested in photography my entire life. I had an uncle when I was younger who used to give me his Polaroid and taught me how to think about taking pictures. And I found it fun just to know that you could see something and have it, look at it, think about it, and develop from there.
Now, what type of photos do you actually take?
I love portraits. I love the idea of looking at a person, engaging with that person, and getting a sense of their humanity. Of what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and I want to have that so that you can look at it and feel as if you know them also.
So it resonates right through your photographs.
Right.
Right, their personality.
Right.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, have you done any black and whites?
Oh my goodness. I did black and white I had a dark rooms for like 30 years. It was just so much fun. I used to teach it. I started when I spent my short time in the Army. They had a dark room. I went home and said, I need one. I made one. Then I made another one. And it was a great social outlet. It was a way to meet people. It's also a way to meet very passionate people and learn how to think about the quality of a photograph. When you look at a photograph, you want to recognize that your eye has to go everywhere. Your eye sees the whole photo. You want everything.
Can I see that for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah, so our audience can take a quick look if possible.
You want to see it. You want to look at the person. You want to feel like there's an exchange, like it's very personal, she and I. We're back and forth. So we like that nice smile she gives, but you'll also notice that the way that it gets darker here means she stands out.
Now, who is this, by the way?
That's a friend of ours. That's Corinne's daughter, Leah.
Ah, yes. Okay. Very good. You've done fashion shows with her.
Yes. And when I see her, of course, I need to take her photo because I find her delightful.
Yes, indeed. Now, what did you learn from taking black and whites?
What did I learn? I learned to think about photographic quality. I learned to think that if there's the blackest black or the whitest white, if someone's wearing something white, you want to see texture. You can't, in other words, if this is overexposed,
Yes.
it doesn't look the same. Your eye is much more comfortable and settled if you show regard for that there's texture in the black and texture in the white.
Now, this is a very good photograph too, Fred, because when you're shooting black and white together, they kind of offset each other. All right, so you're correct, and you got detail in that dress.
Right. Right. So that's the discipline I learned from black and white.
Now, do you do photography jobs for people?
Yes, I do some weddings, and I certainly do some portraits. And last year I was working in a music studio, and they were doing portraits of people who were doing events, so I did portraits for them.
Now, is there anything particular that you like to photograph?
Mostly I like portraits. I also like to go out with my camera and just see what I see for the day. And like here, I went to Mystic one day, in fact, a month ago, and I realized that's technically what's called an HDR photograph. Meaning it would be almost impossible to get this detail here and that detail there in one shot. You just can't. That's actually 3 shots electronically sandwiched together, and that's how you can produce that effect.
I like the reflection in the water there also.
Right.
Excellent. Nice detail. So this reflection is really something that you did here, Fred. It's I really enjoyed this photograph. All right. Excellent. Excellent work. Excellent work. Now, we have another question for you, that your educational background, all right, and work background, and how does it influence your photos?
Well, my degree is in psychology, and then I sold pharmaceuticals. which meant I had time not only to take photos, but I used to meet with doctors, some psychiatrists. We'd go out and not only take photos at least once a week for half a day, but we would spend nights talking about photographs. And what do you think about this? What would you do about that? How would you engage this person? How would you have the person you're photographing participate in the photograph? So that they're as much a part of the photograph as you are.
Now, talking about that, is there anything else that you do besides photography?
I also did practice hypnosis for several years, like 30. And I practiced hypnosis, and I thought about people and what can you say, and you recognize that there's always a stream going on in our head. How do you catch that stream and take photos of it? Like there was a woman I dealt with a long time, and then she met the man of her dreams and she got married. But she had gone through a whole lot of drama. And here she was the day after she got married, and if you look in her face, you realize she's almost saying, wow, I've been through it. I'm on the other side of the tunnel, and here we are. And I felt that.
Yes.
And that's what I feel when I see people is what are they thinking? What's going on in their head? Or like here's my little niece I saw at a wedding. I see her, you notice she's not sitting there thinking, am I looking the right way for your camera? She's looking, hi, I'm enjoying spending the moment with you.
Yes.
So it's a difference in how you orient yourself and your subject when you photograph them to get a high level of engagement with them, participation.
You know, every time I'm with you, Fred, I have to ask this question. Am I under your influence?
If I may, we're all under each other's influence all the time.
That's correct.
Oh, yes.
Yes, indeed. And we want to make sure it's positive.
Absolutely.
Now, you have a lot of these photos that you have here. Is there any one that particularly stands out to you that you enjoyed taking?
Oh, my goodness, so many. Well, here's my angelic daughter, who's a force to be reckoned with. However, you look there, and you're drawn in to that's a 3-year-old who's equally as determined today as she was then, and capable of getting done what she once done then as she does now.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this photo says volumes.
Right. She could even look sweet at the same moments in her life.
Yes, that's very nice. Very nice.
However, she's an amazingly strong personality.
Now, how old, you said she was 3 here?
Yeah, about 3.
And how old is she today?
41?
41, wow, okay. Well, these pictures look like they were taken yesterday. Very, very nice black and whites. Now, what are you looking for to photograph next?
What am I looking for to photograph next? I'm fascinated with green screen. I'm fascinated with, well, like here's a green screen. You take the person, you prop the person on all kinds of pillows, and you put them in a different scene than the one they were in. And I find that interesting. I'm also into high definition, which means that you take 3 photos at the same time, or 5, or more, and one is normally exposed, one's 2 stops underexposed, one's 2 stops overexposed. You could take more. And that would be a picture more of this nature, where it's more tactile when you look at it than a single shot would be. I also, by the way, this was taken at twilight.
Okay.
It wasn't dark yet.
Looks like daytime.
Right, it wasn't dark yet. But the lights are on in the building. If you look at the cab is tactile. And it has it's more realistic looking, so that we could let them know Santa never sleeps.
Now, I have a question about going back to this photograph here where you have her floating. Looks like they're in an art museum. What made you put her in this type of setting?
Well, that's at the Yale Art Gallery on Chapel Street in New Haven. And I walked around there and I had the picture and I was looking for a place. I had her in this position and I said, wow, she's floating. Where would you have her float? And that was why I put the two together. Because when you go around doing green screen, you really have to think in advance when you're going somewhere. If I'm going to put someone in this picture, what can make it look like they might have actually been there, however absurd the picture. And so therefore I had her floating through the air.
Interesting, interesting. And I've been to the art museum there. Very, very good art museum that they have there also.
And it's also a nice place to take people to take photographs.
Yes.
Clearly not that one, but
Right.
you can take photographs there.
Yeah, they do allow that.
They do allow that. They don't allow me to use my monopod, which I technically always use, and they don't allow you to use any type of a flash.
Now, how has your photos evolved over the years?
They've evolved from taking the black and whites in the olden days, then we took some with a flash, now I take pictures with a monopod so I can be more steady. I can also, when I have them on the monopod, I can look at you and I can wait till your expression is the one I'm looking for, rather than feeling the fatigue factor that makes me stop prior to needing to.
Now, you talked about flash photography. Do you use that often?
Rarely. I have a flash. I certainly am capable of using it. But I look at most photos I see with the flash, and the people bring to me so much equipment that they have the light here and the light there, that I get a flat-looking photo and a flat-looking expression I see. I find most of them are, from my perspective, dull. And I'd rather have the high engagement and the minimal amount of technology.
You know, we've been on fashion shows together, and what I noticed about you is you take a lot of personal shots, a lot of headshots. Any particular reason why you like that?
Right. Well, runway itself doesn't do a lot for me, and I do like people. I do like getting to know them, getting to know what they feel, getting to know what they think, and therefore I can go in the back before they go on, and I can have them have a few minutes of participation with no one's rushing me. I know that they're not going on till they go on, so therefore you have a few minutes where you can engage them.
Yes. And it's a little bit more personal, too, which is great.
Substantially more personal, right.
Yes. Excellent. Now, I've been to your home studio,
Yeah.
and you have a great set in the backyard. You have a waterfall. How has that played into your program?
Oh, well, how many people have a waterfall in their backyard?
Yes.
And you have a waterfall. I can even put heat lamps over that so the person stays warm. And they feel free. They feel free to just stand in the water. I even picked up fishing boots at a flea market so I can walk in water and catch the reflections of the people. I'm ready.
Yes, you are. Now, do you have any plans for this spring as far as that?
Yeah, I'd like to do some more water shoots this spring. I'd love to take advantage of that. I even picked up a kayak to put in. There's a pond in my backyard. So if I get on the pond and they get on the surface, I can get the reflection where they'll be in the pond and below. So I'm ready for interesting water shots for the spring.
Well, my question is, can you swim?
Poorly.
How deep is your pond?
My pond's probably 3 feet deep.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, you can.
So you're in good shape.
You can make it. Yeah.
Now, you also like black light photos. How has that played into your?
Oh, black light's fun. You take a person and you have them see things they normally would not see. Meaning black light is, by definition, abstract. They can paint themselves. They can wear outfits that reflect the black light. And when people, it's kind of like when you go to a party and people are wearing a mask. Different facets of their personality can emerge because they're in a different setting, different rules. Suddenly you're in a black light room, it's a different setting. And as you'll see, they're just fun. People just let people play with you.
You know what? When actually I've been shooting since I was 9, and I think it was back in the 70s. I went to Hawaii, and I had gotten all this equipment, and so I started doing a little part-time little hobby as far as doing weddings, and I hooked up with another photographer in Milford, and we started doing portraiture around the state, right?
Mhm.
Using actually 2.25 camera, Yashica mat, I think is what I was using back then, um, which was interesting as far as that was concerned. And I saw the growth, all right. But particularly, what happened was about 5, 6 years ago, we started doing fashion photography, and that's when it really picked up. I was even surprised at myself because when I got my first digital camera, I thought I had shot like 80-some thousand files, and it turned out to be double that, 160,000, right? Doing all the shootings that we did with fashion and events, things of that nature. Uh, so have you seen, been doing fashion photography, how has that affected you at all?
Wow. Well, it does give us a crop of new people to meet.
Hmm.
Uh, Actually, I do some fashion. I've actually done some shows for some of our mutual friends.
Hmm.
So I guess it's just another outlet to learn that someone needs something done. They need it done today. They need the shot done now, and you learn, well, what do I need to do so they can have what they need.
And you know what I've noticed too, and just talking about photography, what I noticed was that it's personal. Right, a lot of people take you into their lives and share things with you that people wouldn't normally do, and also in going through the photography metamorphosis, I would say for myself, especially 5, 6 years ago when I started shooting, I saw that there was so much to take a look at. I even thought about taking an art class because there was much more than just taking a picture of the person. You got to think of what's in front of the person, what's behind the person. It really expands your thinking and how you see things.
Absolutely. And I've met some people who, I guess I'm rather blunt in my own life, so I've met a lot of blunt people who will tell me what I need to rethink in my photos. And it's helped me see things. Or having a black and white darkroom for years, you'd see poles grow out of heads. Nowadays, we can remove them.
Hmm.
In those days, you could, but you worked a lot more.
Yes.
So you learned it was easier to pre-visualize what you were going to get.
Hmm.
It's easier to see it in advance than it is to fix it later.
Exactly.
So that's one of the large lessons of photography is think in advance how you want things to look at the end.
Now you have a home studio. Tell us about that.
Oh, I moved into this house that was built in 1780. And so I have the house, I have a deck, which means I have heat on the deck and lights, and you can take photographs there all year. I even have swings on the deck. I have the duck pond. I have the blacklight rooms, the green screen room. So it's kind of a fun play place to just come, have fun, take photographs.
Yes, and I've been there. It is
Right.
fun. It is
And
fun.
to pursue my passions, yes.
Yes, indeed. Now, do you use green screen at all?
I love green screen.
Mhm.
Green screen is typically green screen is used where you have a background, someone then puts a different background in.
Hmm.
We do that.
Yes,
And
yeah,
that's
we
this
did
one
talk
I
about
had
that,
before.
yes.
But
Mhm.
here's where I figured you could take that to a whole different level if you thought about it. If you use pillows to prop up, it's how you light it. You have to light up the green screen with the same dignity
Mhm.
as anything else. So when you wish to separate it and extract the image, it extracts far more easily if you were neat in your lighting to begin with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to do a lot of work.
Excellent. Now, if someone is interested in exploring water photography or green screen, how do they actually get in touch with you?
They could get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook, Portraits by Max.
Mhm.
That's the easiest way. I'm Fred Max. I'm on Facebook. That's the easiest way to find me.
Mhm. Are you on Instagram at all?
I'm on Instagram as Portraits by Max, so if you can remember it for the first two,
Mhm.
Portraits by Max will do it for
Excellent. Now, one of the things that we discuss on the show, especially with businesses, I'd like to find out your successes and also your challenges. What have some of your challenges been in photography?
you. Challenges in photography, wow. Well, I'm alone and I'm more toward retirement now.
Mhm.
However, the amount of equipment you have, the way to be known, there's a lot of challenges to growing a photography business. It's probably easier to to be affiliated with someone for some period of time
Yes.
and learn what the business itself looks like and then go off that way.
Well, I can tell you one thing, you know, as we get older, that bag seems to get heavier and heavier every time.
Does it ever?
So assistance would also be good.
Oh, yes, and having lots of money would help.
Right. Yeah, anything associated with photography, there's a lot of dollar signs found behind it.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's for sure. Now, how about your successes? What have some of your successes or the ones that have stood out to you as far as photography in general is concerned?
Well, sometimes doing events, doing other things means right place, right time, meaning you meet people. People then have a chance to see your work, to decide, that's what I'd like for me. Could we talk? Certainly we could talk.
Yes. And talking about that, have you ever entered some of your photography work in maybe an exhibit or had a photography contest that you've entered?
No, I haven't hardly done any of that.
Okay. Well, with a suggestion, with PDN. PDN is a photography type of organization, and they do a lot of contests. Matter of fact, we've entered one, and it was in New York City. Actually, it was in Queens, but at this foundation. It was pretty interesting because it was, I didn't realize how big this contest was. It was international, and people came from around the world. There's about 3,000 people that showed up, and there were so many people there on the street. You know how some of the streets are in New York City, they're kind of narrow, and particularly in Queens at this particular one. And the police wanted to shut it down because the people were around the block. It was slowing down traffic a little bit, and they were talking about that. These people came from Norway, Paris, L.A., so nobody was going home for that particular contest. Plus, they even had events inside. So it was interesting to see that interaction. Plus, it gave us more than just the photographs. Matter of fact, one of the photographs that I entered, there was a model that you're familiar with, Chantel. All right, she was one of the pictures that we used, and we brought her. All right, there. All right, which was pretty interesting. And one of the things that PDN used to have on Fridays, they would do things for photographers, and they had we actually shot at Madame Tussauds, and I thought that other photographers were going to bring a model, right, like I did, and I was the only one that brought a model. So some of the photographers were using my model with some of the wax figures that were there. Matter of fact, if you noticed on my Facebook page, there's Denzel Washington, and what she would do, or what she did in this particular case, was she walked up to Denzel, closed her eyes, and was waiting for a kiss.
Oh.
All right. She's down in, I believe she's down in Florida right now. I miss her because she was so gentle in her movements, and she would think of things, and I would just watch her and take those pictures that she blended in with her surroundings. So it was good to photograph her and to work with her as a model and a photographer.
That's a good idea, Madame Tussauds.
Yes, yes. And have you noticed that too, working with models? What has your experience been?
Wow. A good model is really a lot of fun. Someone
Yes.
who will play with you, who will think of something you hadn't thought of. In fact, I was photographing this person at a music event, and all of a sudden he pulled out his cell phone. I'd never seen anyone do that. I said, wow, that's a great gag. I could do that with someone else.
Now that was a picture that on his phone there, it looks like.
No, that's live.
That's live.
That's
Oh, he had to turn around and face
he
it.
turned around his phone.
Okay.
And that was his idea. Or I saw my niece was getting married. And I realized he's a lot larger than she is. And I said, what can I do to make this picture stand out? And if he's standing next to her, it's really a Mutt and Jeff event. I said, pick her up. He picked her up, and I love it.
Yes.
It makes them look even.
Yes, and also too, what makes me think about in this particular situation, there's a lot of interaction between the model and the photographer.
Right.
All right, and if you make the model feel comfortable, all right, there's so much you get out of that whole situation, and it resonates in the photograph.
Absolutely. That's the whole idea, is you want the model to almost feel like you're a mirror of sorts.
Yes, yes.
And they're free to express themselves, and you'll accept whatever they do and work with it, almost like you're playing a magic game of volleyball, where the name of the game is back and forth and grow.
Yes, yes. You know, it's funny, you're talking about that. It makes me think of a friend of mine that has looked at my photographs on Facebook, and the way she described it, when she did it in public, when I first heard it, it was kind of embarrassing, but I got to understand what she was talking about. She said, "Steve, it's like you're making love with your camera with the model," and then I understood what she was saying. All right, it's a blend. All right, the communication that is going on, and it's so fantastic when you look at other people's work and see that same connection that the photographer and also the model has, or even if they're taking pictures of landscape, you can see it resonate, right? Because each photographer has a different eye. So I find it very interesting to see other people's work and what they see, right? Because you can learn from every photographer out there. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Well, that's part of why I like to go to events. I learn from the other photographers.
Yes.
Our mutual friend Chris has shown me more gimmicks and gadgets I could get than any three people.
Yes.
Right, and that's a tremendous plus, is what we learn from each other.
Yes. Now I know you're a reader. Any particular book that you would suggest, all right, to our audience out there, and Scoreland,
Books on photography.
or anything?
Wow.
I'll give you an example. There's one photographer that I've come in contact with, Matthew Jordan Smith. He's a fashion photographer, and he I believe he was born in United States, but he now